What's up, rogues? Welcome to Duel Rogues. Today we have a rogue deck for you that's one of my favorite rogue decks. My name is Josh, and this is our Evilswarm deck profile. Alright guys, so today we've got our Evilswarm deck, and this is my personal build. I actually recently just got third with this at Locals, and we actually have a fairly decently competitive local, so I was actually really pleased with how this did. I wasn't expecting to do anything with this, but it turns out just some of the stun abilities just get a little bit too strong. We have a lot of Thunder Dragons within our area, and Orcus, and let me tell you, those matchups just get stupid easy. You know, them not being able to summon out the Orcus Nightmare, and then no Colossus, no Titan, none of the Thunder Dragons, really. It gets really difficult to be able to deal with that, especially when you have all your stun traps in addition to it. So without further ado, we'll get right into the deck profile here. I'll take the extra deck and side deck away, and we'll focus on our main deck, starting off with our monsters. So we've got our 3 Evilswarm Heliotrope. He's our normal monster, and he is summonable by our 3 copies of Rescue Rabbit. So I do run Desires in this deck, and it is a little bit difficult to run Desires with only one real target for Rescue Rabbit. But you'd find that summoning your Rescue Rabbit first and then getting them out of the deck is usually the play that you do. And not to mention that for some god-awesome reason, I never seem to banish 2 of these. If I banish 1, that's perfectly fine. And with the trap card, you can always put these back to be able to make sure your rabbits are live. And even if they aren't live, they are at least a level 4. If the game state gets too simplified with all of your floodgates and your stun abilities and stuff like that, you can actually hard summon this and just hard make something with it. But that is like a last case sort of thing. Otherwise, it is a really good instant rank 4. It's pretty awesome. So next we have our one of our main Evilswarms of the deck, Evilswarm Caster. This is a warrior. You can play Rotor to be able to search with this. I figured it was a little bit too much because I saw this guy way more than I wanted to, so I took the Rota out. I didn't have the space for it. You'll see in a little bit, our deck space is really tight, so I couldn't afford the Rota in this deck. But the Caster gives you an extra normal summon, and he's fantastic. Next we have another Heart and Soul Evilswarm, Kirkion. So Kirkion, you banish an Evilswarm from your grave, add a different one from your grave to your hand, and then you can immediately normal summon it. And this card is just nutty. Just being able to normal summon a bunch instead of special summon really helps dodge a lot of stuff, and it's fantastic. But again, this is another instant rank 4, and he's awesome. Necessary 3 of. Another one that I play 3 of is Mandragora. So he's our last Evilswarm of the deck. I chose not to play Thunderbird because in playtesting with Thunderbird over the years, I realized that Thunderbird is just so bad. Back in the day when he could dodge stuff, it was okay, but you're not dodging much with Thunderbird now. So this thing is pretty awesome because he's a free summon. He's like a Cyber Dragon. But you can actually have monsters on your board, and if your opponent has more monsters than you do, then this is still live, still a summon, and it's just great to be able to go into your higher ranked plays and such. So Mandragora at 3. So that ends our Evilswarm lineup, and now we're going to get into our hand traps. We're playing 2 Ghost Ogre and 2 Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring. It's awesome that these things just came out in Duel Devastator, so they're really accessible. I chose to play the Ogre because I guess in my locals we have a lot of Striker matchups, but believe it or not, we've also got a lot of Draco matchups. So this was a lot better. You may want to play 3 Ash, 3 Impermanence instead, but instead I chose 2, and then you'll see I have 2 Impermanence later. So that ends our monster lineup, so we're going to start off with our 1 spell floodgate of the deck, Dimensional Fissure. when you detach an Exceed material, this actually makes it to where that Exceed material is not considered a monster until the graveyard. So it's not banished, it actually goes under this. So this card is fantastic, plus when you're playing against like Orcus or even Thunder Dragons to an extent, but not so much. But if you're playing against Striker, can't get their Rays in the grave, Salamangreat, it's just a really, really good card for this format. And the fact that you can afford to play this, kind of like that True Draco mentality, I can get around it, but you can't, so I'm going to play it. Next we go to our draw spells. We've got triple Allure of Darkness. Allure is really great because all your monsters are dark other than your hand traps. So this can also thin out the monster count in your deck because you just sometimes get hands that are just too cloggy in the sense that you have too many monsters. So you want to get rid of them, this is the way to do it. Next we play 2 Potter Desires. I know you guys say it clashes with the rabbit. This card is just too good not to play. This is literally Pot of Greed. I've won games with like 3 cards left in my deck because I've had to activate 2. But 3 is overkill, 2 is just the perfect ratio. And then to round off our draw spells, we've got 1 Upstart Goblin. This card's just too broken. So next we've got one of our win conditions, Double or Nothing. And I'm sure you guys know what this is meant for, is Utopia Double. And then we'll go for our last spell, and I'll go ahead and put our first trap there. These are Infestation spell traps. These are searchable by Ophion. This is like your Altergeist spoofing. It sends one back in the deck, and then you get a different one. And it's really, really great. And then this one makes your Evilswarm monsters. It's like a blanket lance. It protects them from spells and traps for the turn. All of them. So this is really, really good against Striker, especially because whenever they try to Widow Anchor you, or if they try to Afterburners, or even the Jamming Waves, it all just stops with this card. It's pretty great. So next we go on to our traps. So our traps, we've got 2 Infinite Impermanences. Like I said before, this card's just too good not to play. It's awesome. If you can't afford it, you can always play Veiler, but I really do appreciate this card. This card comes in clutch. And then we've got 3 Strike, 3 Warning, or not Warning, but Judgment, and then 1 Warning. So we are playing the full lineup of the Solemns. These cards are just absolutely insane. In any sort of stun deck, these need to be played. And I know it seems like you could pay like 20,000 life points with this. Don't worry, you're really only going to see like 3 or so of them. And even if you do, they're well worth it as long as you place your negates very, very well. So, from there, our Floodgates are 1 Imperial Order and 1 Macrocosmos. Again, if it hurts your opponent more than it hurts you, it's worth playing. This is just too good not to play. Actually, Imperial Order, I was debating on main decking this or not, and it ended up main decking it was really good. And well, I guess the same thing with Macrocosmos. It ended up being really good. I just didn't know what to do for our last 2 slots. So there we go. So on to our extra deck. So for our Link monsters, we're going to start off with Steel Swarm Origin. This card's really great. It protects himself as long as he's pointing to something. Your opponent cannot summon extra deck monsters in a main monster zone unless he's pointing to it. So if your opponent summons an extra deck monster to the main monster zone, you just protected my monster. Thanks. Also, some decks are playing like Regeki and Torrential Tribute, board wipes and such, because this thing protects itself, and then for each monster that's destroyed at the same time, once per turn, you can summon that many monsters, Evilswarm monsters from your deck. So that can be really good, especially if you're playing it with the spell card that makes them immune to spells and traps. So you can activate like Dark Hole and then activate the spell to protect all your monsters, and then you just summon a crap ton from deck and you just win. But this card is really good for that. Usually I just end up making Ophion though. Next, we got Beat Cop from the Underworld, easy generic Link 2. Nightmare Unicorn, self-explanatory. Borreload and Boral Sword Dragon. My biggest thing is that with this extra deck, it's mainly options. So I have options to be able to go into this, or to go into this, or to go into this. All so that I can, you know, try to kill you in any way possible. And my biggest thing is that I want options because there's so many decks in this format. It's going to be better for me to play this in some situations. Sometimes it's better for me to play Borreload. Who knows? So I decided to play both. So next we got our Evilswarm Ophion, Heart and Soul of the deck. You detach one, you search an infestation, spell, or trap. So either your Blanket Lance or your spoofing for your deck. And then while he has an exceed material, you cannot special summon level 5 or higher monsters. So this guy's just excellent. Heart and Soul of the deck, the reason you play Evilswarms. Evilswarm Bahamut. If your hand gets too clogged with monsters and you're going second, then you summon him, you detach, you discard a monster, and then you just take an opponent's monster. You snatch steal it. It's yours for good, and you just do with it whatever you like. It's really awesome, especially if you're playing against like Thunder Dragons, and you just take their Colossus. And you know, mind controlling a Colossus is great. Crackdowning a Colossus is great. This is better than both of them combined. This thing is excellent. Would never take this out of the extra deck. And then for our last Evilswarm monster in our extra deck, we've got Exiton Knight. This card's just too good not to play it. Board wiping fields and stuff. It really does come in handy, especially against strikers and stuff like that. So then we've got Tornado Dragon for all your back row decks. Abyss Dweller, this is for your Salamangreat matchups and your Orcus matchups. Really good. And then one of our win cons, we've got our Utopia Double, and Lightning. So if Double gets negated, people like to negate this because they don't want to die. Then you go into your Lightning, and that way you're able to stall pretty well because this thing is an Armades. You know, your opponent can't respond when you attack or when they attack. So this ends up being a really good extra thing for that. And then our last extra deck monster is Gaga Cowboy because we want to win in time. So onto our side deck. Our only monster we're playing in the side deck is Artifact Lancia. Again for the Orcus matchup, sometimes for the Thunder Dragon matchup. This card's just a blowout. It's really good. And then we can play a lot of Floodgates in this deck, but I chose not to main them, like Goes in Match and Anti-Spell, simply because against some matchups they're great, they're the best cards ever, and then some matchups they're like, well, this is useless, I'm deciding this out. And I just wanted to be able to make sure that my game one, I could win against any deck. You know, I'm not relying too heavily on my side deck. And then these just end up being win buttons later on. Then I'm playing 2 Evenly Matched and 2 Heavy Storm Duster for back row decks. You know, enough said. This going second, this going first. Excellent. I only played 2 because I just didn't have the space for the third for each one. And then lastly, our 2 Eradicator Epidemic Virus. This is another striker matchup card. And it's also, I guess, for kind of like the rogue back row decks too. But this card is nutty. So, no reason not to play it. Alright, well that is our Evilswarm deck. And I want to thank you again for watching this video. Stay until the end. Make sure you comment down below any ideas that you would have for this deck. And let us know, you know, if you've ever played Evilswarms or if you want to see a rogue deck coming up. And we'll be sure to put it on the channel. Thank you guys. Have a great day.